Alright, this video I want to kind of give a discussion about the model for knowledge by David M. Armstrong, which is called the thermometer model. And I don't currently have the text for this to show you, which I normally do. It's in an anthology which is called Knowledge by Sven, which is compiled by Sven Bernecker and Fred Dretske. So the whole thing here is, this is in a whole book of his. You can also find it in one of his books, which again I forget. The title of the work by Armstrong where he gives this, but it's pretty important. Following, once we have kind of turning away from the whole logical positivist model into trying to figure out what it means to have knowledge of something. I have many videos about articles in knowledge, and I'm just kind of always making more and doing more things in epistemology on this channel. So I guess to kind of give you a whole thing here is that there's a difference between inferential knowledge and non-inferential knowledge. Now, inferential knowledge, or I'll start with non-inferential. Non-inferential knowledge, which I have as NIK here, non-inferential knowledge is the big thing in question, is because how can we know that how can we be sure that we know something non-inferentially? Now it's kind of like to know something non-inferentially. Let's say we have this red patch, sense data. We have this red patch, which is, my marker's kind of dying, so it's kind of shitty. But let's say I have a red patch here. And it's kind of like seeing a book on the table. How can I know that there is really a red patch of color here? That's the whole question. That's the whole issue. How can I be sure that this is that I'm seeing white here? How can I be sure that I'm seeing a whiteboard here? How can I be sure that I'm seeing a wall here? It's just the issue of how can I be sure that what I see in front of me is really there, and how can I be sure of it? The logical positivists, or at least the foundationalist ones, would try to put sense data as the ultimate foundation of all of scientific knowledge, and make this the way in which that they know something is there. So that is what non-inferential knowledge is. Inferential knowledge is like the example of, let's say I'm in a part of the world that I haven't been there before, and I see black hardened igneous rock there. However, I see no volcano. If I see black hardened, dried up igneous rock here, can I inferentially know that there was a volcano here before, or that some volcano erupted here long ago? How can I be inferentially sure that a volcano was here, or is it possible that the hardened black igneous rock got there by some other means? Excuse me, I'm sick. I'm trying to get over it. So, but what we're talking about is this. We are talking about non-inferential knowledge, and the ways in which people formulate what it means to know something non-inferentially. People do it through perception or sense data. And perception, what that is, I guess a good book to read on that would be one by Roderick Chisholm. It's a great read about that. It's simpler judgments of perception. Simple judgments, just that there's a book on the table, or there's a red patch here. Simple judgments of sense. Sensing, it's, sense data, what this is, well, according to Moore or Russell, a certain patch of a certain size, color, and shape. Sense data can also be any kind of sensory information like smoothness or a certain aroma or hearing something or tasting something. Any kind of sensory info is sense data. People like G.E. Moore and Bertrand Russell talk about that. This is also referred to as the given, and Wilfred Sellers, and again Roderick Chisholm and others talk about this and as to how good it is to make this the way in which we can ultimately have non-inferential knowledge. Now I have three views which Armstrong gives out, which is the optimistic view, the moderate view, and the pessimistic view. So the pessimistic view is that there is no non-inferential knowledge of states of affairs. Now, we're talking about states of affairs here. What is a state of affairs? This is a state of affairs. BAP, that's a term of predicate logic. A and P are constants, and B is the way in which A and P are related. So this is why this is read as A and P are related in terms of B. So a state of affairs is, say, John loving Carol. So I could say LJC. John and Carol are related in terms of love. John loves Carol. So something like this, or even a three-term relation. L, X, Y, Z, X, Y, and Z are related in terms of L. These things are states of affairs. Now, Armstrong, let me see, where is that book? I have a book around here somewhere, which is by Armstrong. It's called The Sketch of Systematic Metaphysics, where he kind of gives a definition of each term in metaphysics, and I do have a video about that. So a state of affairs, think of that as just something that exists in nature that can basically verify a belief state. So let's say I believe that there is a book on the table. The book being on the table is a state of affairs which verifies my belief. So the pessimistic view, again, is that there is no possibility of non-inferential knowledge, or we can't have non-inferential knowledge of states of affairs in the natural world. And these people are people like skeptics, people who advocate skepticism, who think that even though I see certain things, they don't have any bearing on what I know. So that's this. That even though I'm seeing the book on the table, my seeing of the book doesn't have any bearing on what I can non-inferentially know. The moderate view is that there can be non-inferential knowledge. There can be, but just because I see a book on the table doesn't necessarily mean that I know there to be a book on the table. So this is that there can be, but just because there is a certain state of affairs doesn't mean that something is true or that I know it. The optimistic view is that whenever I see a book on the table, that it is logically indubitable that I know there to be a book on the table. So whenever I see any kind of sense data or any kind of perceptual data, it is logically indubitable that I know that to be the case. So when I see a red patch, according to these guys, I logically indubitably know that there's a red patch here. Now, people like this are like total realists, and there are realists here too. And we have like people like nihilists here, and this is a lot of metaphysics is in here too. Metaphysics of what's real and what is not real, and issues about this because is a way in which epistemology relates to metaphysics. Am I still in time? Okay. So, what does it mean for me to have, or what does it mean for me to have non-inferential knowledge of something? To Armstrong, it is a logical law-like connection, not causal. It is not causal. Thus, the belief state to this state of affairs, there's no causal link here. But to have a belief state, to believe that there is a book on the table, connects logically to a state of affairs of there being a book on the table. And for him, this is a logical law-like connection, which makes him makes him definitely not a pessimist. Now, you can read that and kind of figure out what he thinks. I don't want to really get into the very big details. Now, you can see how this is a connection, a logical law-like connection, and this can also be referred to as a truth-making connection. Where a certain metaphysical state of affairs occurring verifies my belief state. Now, how the hell does this all relate to a thermometer? Now, that's my shitty thermometer that I drew. How does this relate to that? That is a question here. After talking about all this stuff, if people have thermometers outside or inside, which kind of informs them on what the weather's like. Think about this: is it possible for a thermometer to be faulty? Is it possible for it to be bad? Is it possible for it to give wrong readings? That's the whole thing here. As to what he says about this, as to what his opinion is here, I will leave that for you to read. It's possible. And I guess how this whole thing relates to knowledge is that we can be like a thermometer, in that how do we know whether we are a good one or a bad one? And if a thermometer is good, then it will always tell you what the temperature is, and whatever this thing says will always be the case. A good thermometer will always tell you the temperature always correctly all the time. However, a bad one, or a faulty one, can possibly have coincidental good readings, or it can have good readings sometimes and not others. So let's say you test a bad thermometer, and it happens to be reading correctly, and you're like, okay, it's fine. So sometimes thermometers are wrong, and sometimes they can be right. And they don't always read the correct temperature of the environment. So how do you know that any thermometer is correct? Thus, how do you know that when I see a book on the table that there's actually a book on the table? How do you know that if I have the belief? How do you know that when I had the belief that the state of affairs line up? You could be hallucinating, or there could be a plethora of anomalies that could screw things up, really. So if S believes a sound was in his environment, was there a sound, really? Armstrong says not necessarily. We could be a faulty thermometer. We could have read things wrong. So I'm gonna write what he says here. Okay. A non-inferentially knows that P, A, N-I-K-P, A non-inferentially knows that P, if and only if, 1, P is the case. 2, a big one, there is some specification of A such that if any person is so specified, sorry guys, is so specified, then if they further believe that P then P is the case. So A non-inferentially knows that P, if and only if P is the case, and there is some specification of A such that if any person is so specified, then if they further believe that P, then P is the case. So that's what he gives. Now you can make of that what you will. If you think I've messed something up or left something out, please definitely let me know and comment below. Or if you have a question about this or anything in what I talk about on this channel, really, also comment below. And if you comment, I get an email, and if your comment is constructive, then I will always respond. So thank you.